The biggest thing I think is kind of a combination of fear and self-doubt, and then those things cause you to have assumptions about something that you haven't even tested yet. A lot of people will talk themselves out of doing something, like your pricing example, because they assume no one's gonna do it, no one's gonna go for that. Those two things, self-doubt and fear, creep in and cause people to make decisions that maybe they shouldn't make instead of trying to test something out.
Well, hello and welcome to another guest interview here on the Profit with Law podcast. I'm your host, Moshe Amsel, and today we're going to be talking about marketing with Kalen Marie Cotto. Kalen Marie Cotto is a fractional CMO, author of The Revenue Runway, founder of KMC Digital, helping small businesses and startups drive sales with no fluff. Results driven strategies with over 20 years of experience, including coordinating media and combat zones. Her work has helped clients achieve double industry standard conversion rates and thousands of sales calls. She began her entrepreneurial journey in 2010 while pregnant and serving in the Army Reserve. Thank you for your service. Seeking both income and flexibility. After a divorce caused her referral based business to collapse, she built her own lead generation system, leading to the resilient growth framework she now teaches as the Revenue Runway. Now, before I bring Kaylin Marie onto the show, we're running a workshop series. We're calling it the 100K per month workshop, and it's an in person 2 day event. It is geared towards solos and smalls looking to grow beyond themselves. So if you're on your journey of growth, you haven't hit $100,000 a month yet, basically a little bit over $1 million in annual revenue, and you're trying to get there. You haven't figured out the formula. That's what we do with our clients in the elite coaching program. And what we did is we took the first 12 weeks of that program and turned it into 2 days. And you can join us for 2 days in that workshop. And you can join us for 2 days in that workshop, and you can leave the with an action plan of exactly what you need to do for the rest of the year to make that happen for yourself. So, if this sounds like something that you need in your business, you definitely want to check it out and go to. And of course, I forgot to look at the URL before I started this little promo here. So, profitwithlaw.com/, I think I called it LFG 2026, Law Firm Growth 2026, LFG for Law Firm Growth, LFG 2026. So profitwithlaw.com/, LFG 2026. And you can register there. And I think my team has been playing around with discounting those tickets. So run over there pretty quick because those discounted rates expire. So you want to make sure you grab them before it's too late. Kaylin, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
It's my absolute pleasure and appreciate you taking time out of your day to share with our audience. Let's tee up an easy one for you. Tell us a little bit about how you got into marketing, a little bit about your journey and your area of expertise, and then we'll jump into some meaty conversation around this.
Well, I would say, sorry, I would say probably I'm an accidental marketer. I joke about that sometimes. I started out going to journalism school and then ended up joining the ROTC program at my college when I was actually writing a story about them for a local newspaper. And then yeah, the rest is history. I went into the Army as an Army journalist. At the time, it's public affairs. The military kind of calls them their Army journalists, but it's kind of like PR-ish for the Army. So I was a public affairs officer, went to school in Washington, D.C. for a few months to get my qualification after doing Signal Corps training down at Fort Gordon, and went to Iraq not long after that in 2007, 2008. And then that was my one and only deployment. Came back, got put on active duty orders in Los Angeles to help with a new Army Reserve command. It was a new two-star command outside of DC, which they have not had on the Los Angeles area to manage operations. So they were short-staffed, hired a lieutenant instead of a lieutenant colonel, and I ended up writing policy for the public affairs guidance there. So I feel like my initial thing was communications and journalism, but it kind of played well when I worked at Petco Animal Corporation down in San Diego. I started in corporate before I went over to Iraq. So in that environment, I was doing corporate communications, similar public affairs type work, press release writing, content writing. They had not gone all in on social media yet, so we were working with the legal team to figure out what is legal on social media for us to do, how much can we talk about, should we talk about products, should we talk about stories. It was kind of a fun time because Facebook had just opened up fan pages, and so I think we were looking at Target actually as a case study because they had gone all in already. And so that's kind of where I started out. My first social media account was for the military, actually, and then my civilian job. So later on, got married, was pregnant with my daughter, and thought, I don't know if I can stay on active duty when I'm constantly on call to answer things when anything happened. And there was a shooting back around that time at Fort Hood, and we all got alerted as public affairs to be on standby. And I was very pregnant. So I called my friend who was trying to manage the media that were showing up at the front gate of the base I was working at. And I realized, man, like, I don't know if I can be on call all the time with the baby on the way. So my friends were all retiring. I was the youngest in the office, and they said, "Hey, you do web stuff for the art for us, at the office. Can you help me build a website? I'm starting a business after I get out. Can you make me a logo? Can you, just basic little things." And then they would offer money. I was doing it for free. And then I was like, well, $500 for like a website is fine. And then over time, my husband at the time said, why don't you think about just doing this regularly? Like actually build your own website, start, file your own. That's kind of how it started. And now it's been this year, 2025 was 15 years helping small businesses. And we have a really great group of clients who do really cool things. And I really love what we do.
Awesome. So, let's dive into your area of expertise. I love this story, by the way, and I'm a big family first person. Like your decisions end up being, once you're a parent, your decisions end up being made um, just based on what's best for you and your child and your quality of life together. So,
Mhm.
don't blame you for making that move at that time and you've got a smart husband to tell you to go do it on your own. Like there's if you have a gift, don't keep it from the world, right? So marketing is very interesting right now. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of changes, but walk me through, you know, I guess the best place to start is how do you navigate figuring out where to focus your efforts? A lot of our listeners are small businesses, small law firms where they don't have a unlimited budget. They can't just spend on everything, and many of them are spending money for the first time on marketing. We do the 100K per month workshop that I promoted at the beginning of the show. And one of the things that I teach in that workshop is to understand that the investment comes before the return, right? So if you want to get $100,000 months, you have to spend on marketing like you're producing 100,000. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. So if we say that a healthy budget is 10% of revenue for marketing or 15% of revenue, so just somewhere in that range, that's ten to $15,000 a month that a business that might not be spending anything today, we're going to be turning around and saying, spend this on marketing to produce the results that you want. So somebody who's just entering the game or they've been in it for a while, but they're trying to figure out or navigate, where to put their dollars. How do you help your clients to understand or figure out whether it should be SEO, organic social, paid media, online advertising, offline advertising? Like, there's so many options out there, and it's so confusing and it's changing every day. Is there a framework that you use? Is there a process you use to walk people through navigating and figuring this out?
Yeah, and I think because we didn't really niche down, because I know at the beginning before we started recording, you said, do you have a niche that you specialize in? And actually, it's funny because I have I have a military association that's a client. I have a law firm that does environmental law. Work with rheumatologists. I've worked with dentists. I've worked with all sorts of verticals, and there's similarities in all of them. So we actually a year ago was when we made the pivot to really do strategy first. Because before that, I don't know if you've experienced this in your when you're working with small business, but they'll email you, call you, whatever, and they'll say, I just need someone to help me with ads. And that's all I need. But then you dive into their online presence and their website and their messaging and their offer. They don't really have an offer. They don't really have the basic foundational things in place. And I think even with AI, a lot of people are freaking out about AI, and I'm very much behind the power curve getting information out to my audience. But I really think that people are panicking a little bit prematurely about AI because AI is scraping the same SEO keywords and searches that it's always been that Google's been pulling. But now they're adjusting. People are start like have always been doing long form keywords, but it's just kind of it's just pulling from a ton of different sources and like combining them all. And so what I'm noticing is clients who did invest in SEO and have been good about keeping up with blogging and podcasting and updating their website, they're being pulled into the AI and the AI summaries that come up. Even if they're lumped in with a couple other organizations that are similar to them, they're at least listed and linked to. So that's really what what we want. And I know there are strategies out there where if you post a blog, people are doing these short paragraph summaries at the top to try to get AI to pull in that summarized piece of content. None of those are bad ideas, but we focus on foundational things, the offer and who you're targeting. Everyone says figure out your ideal client avatar, and it's a nice thing to say, but what does that mean? And I think people don't really dive into that as clearly because like for somebody who's in law firm world, there's certain channels where you're probably not going to look for clients. Posting cute pictures of puppies on all your channels will get engagement and followers, but they're not the right people. So we look at messaging a lot because of that builds out your content pillars and who you're attracting. Even with your podcast, you're attracting a very specific law firm owner who wants to grow, who wants to invest in themselves, and you're helping guide them because it is scary if you've never put money on marketing and if you've been burned. Maybe you spent a little less than what is recommended and you lost all that money and didn't get anything for it. So I would say what I do typically is I'll look at where they live and where they are locally and kind of try to saturate the area that they live locally. Almost like a locally famous, if you want a shortcut answer, that's not my strategy where we dive deep, but we do all that research first. And if they're on the right track, that's great. We figure out how to improve, but if they're not, we give them the foundational pieces. And so really the offer, the sales strategy, and the avatar are the three big ones. And then mindset. So it's the way we chunked it out is there's three major chunks. So mindset first. I think in the book there's like a bunch of mindset questions. Are you ready to grow? Can you handle the growth and all of those things? And what's going to prevent you from taking on clients in your mind? Like, are you feeling confident that you can do what it is you want to do, that kind of stuff. And then the big three is the second piece, which is the offer the avatar and how you're going to sell to them when they do get on the phone with you. And then the final thing is just how to keep those clients, how to keep them engaged and how to offer additional services if they're ready for it, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so I love everything that you just shared. I think it's very interesting that the answer to which is the marketing strategy that you should invest in, where should what direction you should go, is not marketing at all, right? Like let's look at your sales funnel, let's look at, what is your process, what is your offer, and make sure that all of that is good before you go and spend a ton of money to bring people in and lead them to a place where they're not prepared to make a purchase, or they're not setting you up for success. It's interesting because there's a few different things that go into an offer, right? It's what you're charging, how you're packaging it, what they're getting for that fee. And that's another thing that we focus on in our 2-day event is and in the way that I work with clients is really understanding. And I'm going to be doing an episode. I don't know if it's going to be released before or after this interview, but I'm going to be doing an episode that's going to be coming out around this, talking about pricing specifically. And what's interesting is that if you understand that you have to get at least 5 times the cost of the attorney on your staff in order for you to run a profitable business, and say they're costing you 150,000, right? that means you have to have 750,000 in revenue from that attorney. And the funny thing is that I mean, if we look at the billable hour, and I'm trying to get as many people away from that as possible. We have an episode that we did many years ago called "The Death of the Billable Hour," and it's been a very slow death. And it needs to get accelerated a little bit more. Um, but if you do the math of like how many productive hours are there in a year for a full-time employee, and if you do 5 hours a day, 6 hours a day, they're humans, they're going to have lunch, they're going to have downtime, they're,
Yep.
stuff's going to happen. You're talking about a max of 1,400 billable hours a year. And if you're charging 350, 450 an hour, you're not hitting 750. You're shy of that, right? So you
Right.
can't even get good talent into your firm and run profitably if that's your model. So we
Mhm.
need to figure out how to unlock $1,000 an hour. And you're not going to bill $1,000 an hour because I mean I'm going to get pushback from every attorney out there because they're going to say, well, that's crazy. I would, nobody would ever think that that was a realistic number. But the reality is that with the cost of doing business today, it's a very real number, and it's very possible to do if you package it. Excuse me, package it differently. So the packaging of the offer is so crucial and instrumental in getting the client to not only see the value that you provide, but unlock that extra level. And the funny thing is that when I work with attorneys and they finally wrap their head around this and they implement something new, right? And it works and they're blown away.
They're shocked.
You know what
Yes.
happens next? It's like, oh my gosh, for 20 years, I've been earning 250, $300,000 in annual revenue. But if I had done this for the last 20 years, I would
Yeah.
have been a $600,000, $700,000 firm without having an attorney on my staff. And
Hmm.
now I that would have made life so much easier. That would have made it easier for me to grow. The part of the reason I can't grow is because I don't have enough extra beyond my cost of living to invest back into the business. So getting the offer right, and it's not just pricing, but pricing is a big piece of that. Getting the
Hmm.
offer right is so instrumental in the whole picture of the growth of your business.
Hmm.
And to your point, like, okay, if you had the right offer in place, then the marketing kind of writes itself, right? Like you kind of figure that out on your own. And then the next thing is the avatar, which um call it what you want. I mean, people are listening to this like, what's an avatar? If that's your
Personas.
question,
Yeah.
then you just haven't
Your
listened to
ideal
enough
client.
marketing
Yep.
podcasts. But that's okay. I don't we don't fault you. But it's a term thrown around, but it's basically who's your target market. And
Yep.
if you have to get really specific about your target market, I'll use an example. Let's talk about estate planning.
Hmm.
The message to attract somebody who's getting ready to retire, has no more kids left in the house, and is thinking about what to do with their estate is very different than the message that you need to attract somebody who's got young kids at home and is taking care of an elderly parent and trying to figure out whether or not they even need to worry about their own estate right now, right?
Hmm.
Or they're worrying about their parents' estate and how to approach that conversation with their parent. You can already start seeing how what you put out into the marketplace as far as to attract those people would be completely different. And that's why it's so important because if you try to reach everybody, you reach nobody.
Hmm.
And if you try
And
to
I
reach
think,
somebody very specific, then they look at your marketing and they say, wow, this person gets me. This person's talking to me. And that's what draws them in to you.
yep.
To your point, Profit with Law, this podcast, right? We're
Mhm.
we're not the right podcast. Well, I mean, anybody can listen to it, right? But the message of the show, the underlying thread, is not the right message for somebody who wants to be a solo for life,
Yeah.
right? If you just
Yeah.
want
You're
to
building firms.
maximize your
Yeah.
practice with you as a solo, that's not what I focus on.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with that. It's just not the model that I'm after. I'm after somebody who wants to grow beyond themselves. I'm after somebody who wants to elevate their impact, use leverage to grow their business, and um, it's really important to understand who your market is so that you do put the right message out there to attract them. Um, you talked about mindset and you kind of rushed through it. And I want to just spend a few extra minutes focusing in on that. I just did a podcast episode I'm actually going to pull up my podcast app on my phone. It was just last week. Well, at the time of this recording, it was last week. We record in advance, so I don't know when this is going to be released, but it was episode 514. You can go to profitwithlaw.com/514 to get to it really quickly, or you could just look at your podcast player. It's called How to Be a Profitable Law Firm Owner in 2026, Part 1 of 5. And in that episode, I really tore down what goes into the mindset of the law firm business owner, and what you need to how you need to approach the year if you really want to succeed this year. But that was from a high level business approach. I'm curious to know from your working with clients on the marketing side, what are the kinds of things that are coming up for people that are getting in their way of being able to succeed in executing or actually seeing through a marketing and sales strategy?
I think a lot of it is really, well, we identify several things, but the biggest thing I think is kind of a combination of fear and self-doubt, and then those things cause you to have assumptions about something that you haven't even tested yet. A lot of people will talk themselves out of doing something like your pricing example because they assume no one's going to do it, no one's going to go for that. So I think that those two things, self-doubt and fear, creep in and cause people to make decisions that maybe they shouldn't make instead of trying to test something out. And we have a way of using Facebook to test out, messaging. So we test out 50 or 60 different messages with these micro tests to see who reacts and how they react, and is it positive, negative, what's the level of engagement these posts are getting, within a very short time span, because you don't have time to waste money on ad spend just to test out messages. So we try to keep it under 2K. And we'll find out, these are like the top 5 pain points, and we've adjusted lead magnets over it. But the person that was the client that we were doing the testing for, they thought they knew what their market wanted until we actually tested out the messaging. So the first roadblock we talk about in the book is self-doubt. It's self-doubt in any area, whether you're already in business and you're changing something like raising your prices. A lot of people freak out when you say you should raise your pricing. I actually just talked to my nail tech. She wants to raise her pricing. She doesn't think anybody will pay for it, but everyone in the area is charging more than her. So they're already paying that price. And so, but in her head, she thinks her existing clients will leave her, and they probably won't because she does a really good job. So I think because I work with a lot of small businesses, and I think that's a big one. Another one is feeling unsupported. Like if I fail, my wife, my husband, my everybody around me is just going to bail on me. I don't have anyone to help me. I don't have a business group of people that I connect with. So I do recommend people find a group, and even taking your 2-day workshop, they'll probably network with other people in the same boat as them. And that's a big thing. And even now, especially now with all the AI and all the digital stuff, people want human connection, and it helps you. You feel like, okay, if I need something, I can reach out to this network of people if I don't know the answer. I'm part of a network of fractional CMOs. There's like 120 of us in a group. And if I don't know how to help a client, someone in that group does, because some people specialize in medical or some people specialize in whatever it is. And I can ask them a question or even refer someone who might be a better fit than me. So support you can find. Not having enough money to invest, like a fear of lacking money. I can't leave my job to start this thing, or I can't grow because I don't have the money to invest to grow. And that pricing change thing, there's a lot of solutions to all these, but I think that's a big one. I don't have enough time is a big myth that we tell ourselves. A lot of people spend a lot of time scrolling and on Netflix, and they don't build their time properly. They don't block time out to get projects done. They let people call them all day and interrupt what they're doing. So we talk about that as well in the book. And then the economy's bad, so therefore, no one's gonna buy from me, or I can't launch this thing I want to do. And I had to get over a lot of these fears myself. And then just the fear of failure in general. I think that's number 6. Those are the 6 we thought that were recurring themes over the past 15 years. Excuses why people didn't start a business, didn't stay in business, went back into the workforce, or that kind of stuff. Or didn't want to pivot from what they were currently doing.
It's interesting because my the state of mind, right? Like we call it mindset. It's such a thrown around term, and people don't really get what it means. And when it's happening to you, it's so hard to see because you're in the thick of it, you're in the weeds. Um, and all of the things that you said are true, but I'll give you one example. I've got a friend whose husband owns an immigration practice. And she reached out to me and said, "Hey, listen, can you help my husband? We're really struggling right now with the state of immigration, the way that it is, and we need help." And I said, "Sure. Why don't we book a Zoom meeting and we can talk about it, see what we can do, and he's probably a perfect fit for our elite coaching program. He's a perfect fit for the 2-day workshop coming up. Um, anyway, she goes, "Oh, no, no, we were kind of thinking about doing it, something more in person." And I was baffled. I said, "I don't understand. You know that I help hundreds of law firms to solve the problem that you're struggling with. And this is how I do it. So you can choose to do it with me the way that I do it, or you can choose to continue to suffer and try to struggle and figure it out. Like why wouldn't you accept virtual help? It happens to be they're local, but that's not my business model, right? So that's one client, but they're struggling because of the state of the immigration situation right now, right? I have another client that is they can't deal with the leads fast enough that are coming in. Same
Yes.
industry. They're an immigration practice. They're spending money on advertising. They're bringing leads in. And their biggest problem is just having enough bodies to handle all the leads that are coming in. And they're constantly like racing to have enough people to talk to all these potential clients that are coming in. And I
Yep.
can't help but look at the two businesses in the same industry and the absolutely stark contrast of mindsets and approach to the situation of the owners. When you
Mhm.
said state of the economy, I was like, you know what? It's really true. It's not just the economy, right? It's the environment of the
Right.
specific area of law that you're practicing. And it's also, when we talked about pricing, one of the first things that people say on pushback is like, nobody's charging that. I had a client charging 325 an hour, and he's the best business litigation attorney in his area. And I said, immediately, I said, you're just not going to be able to get to where you want to go at that rate. You got to bump it up. You got to go to 450 as a starting point. And he goes, well,
Mm.
nobody in like the most expensive person in the area is 350. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, why does that matter?
Yeah.
Like, who
Don't worry
cares
about
what
that.
everyone else is charging? You charge what you want to charge because you feel you're worth that. And the people who want to pay that are going to pay it. The people who want to work with you are going to pay that. So
Right.
he decided to go out on a limb and listen to me and charge 450 an hour. And he had three potential clients come in. All of them signed. Nobody batted an eyelash at the price that he quoted them. And I said, okay, great. Now go to 550. Right. So
Yeah, you had 100% success. Definitely. You could go up a little.
Exactly, exactly. No fall off at all. Um, but we do that to ourselves. We
Yeah.
constantly diminish the worth of what we're doing, what we're bringing. And the other thing is that often we're not thinking in terms of a business owner. We're thinking in terms of me, right? Like if I do this work, what is it worth? What is it worth to me if I do it? But if you instead flip it and say, if I had an attorney that I was paying X to do this, what
Yep.
would I then want to charge for it? And the
Hmm.
thing is people struggle with, oh, if I'm hiring an attorney, I can't bill them out at the rate I'm billing because I'm the senior, I'm the partner, I'm the person who's supposed to be charging the most, so they have to be billed less than me. It's another mindset issue, right? Like it's another thing where, and I tell my clients that that's the exact moment and opportunity for you to raise the rates all across the board, right? So say you're charging 325 for you, you're now 550 or 575, and your associate coming in is 450, right? So they're less than you. And the moment that you have two different rates for two different people in the firm, the lower cost one seems like a bargain, even though it's more than you were charging before. So there's
Yes.
so much around everything. I mean, pricing is something we keep going back to because it's an easy one to target because it the mindset issues there are so obvious, but it comes up in everything. If I tell you
Yeah.
spend $10,000 a month in marketing and you're not spending anything right now, and by the way, I would never have somebody start spending $10,000 a month on day one, with no
Right.
budget before that, right? They're just going to
Mhm.
waste that money away. There's a period of testing and trying and figuring out what's going to work. But
Mhm.
so don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But if I guide them to, hey, 12 months from now, your budget is going to have to be $10,000 a month, and let's navigate how you're going to spend that money. What are we going to test? What are we going to try in order to figure out whether we should go ahead and do this? Um, People look at that and they're like, I'm not even paying myself $10,000 a month.
Yeah, I
How
know.
can I spend that? And those decisions are being made from my current situation where I am today.
Hmm.
And we have to change that and start making decisions from where we want to be, from the
Hmm.
person we want to be, from where we're going. Because if when I'm already at $1 million, I wouldn't bat an eyelash to spend 10,000 a month on marketing,
Right.
then that's the way I need to operate now.
Yep, that's a tricky one, but it's true because then you just don't get there, right? You don't ever raise your prices. You don't ever change the way you're doing anything. And a year later, you're in the same exact pot. And things are costing more. Even my clients, I'm like when you go to hire marketing agencies, it's the same thing for us. We have more expense. The AI may have helped us do things a little bit faster on some areas, but it's not there yet. It's not going to take over your whole marketing team right now. And it's not the same as asking real humans what their input is. And so I think the cost of the software to even have all these AI bots and people who know how to run them, people who understand how to prompt them, people who understand what they're getting out of it, I think that's all still, it's still part of the equation. People are always going to need to be part of that. And that's what, I don't know. That's where I'm like, don't be afraid of AI. Use it for what is good for right now. Keep an eye on it and use it as it gets better. But I think the basics are still so important. We just got to get people to do the basics. A lot of the other things work itself out.
All right, we're at the end of our time together, Kalen. So I like to close out the show with two questions for you. So question number one is, what is one parting piece of advice or wisdom that you want to share with our audience? Question number two is, how can people find out more about you if they want to take the next step in the journey with you? They really liked what you brought to this episode, and they want to explore, what you might have to offer for them.
So the easy one is the website is therevenuerunway.com. If they want to see, that's the pre-order for the book. The book launches in a week on January 13th, but they can go there to do the pre-order. And then inside the book has a link to bonuses that they'll get, like free downloadables and templates in our online community. And then, as far as what piece of advice would I leave people with, I would say, um, don't compare yourself to other people. Just run your own race, get the basics of what you bring to the table in place, get all your own ducks in a row, and then if you're brand new, never took a client on, start small and go at your own pace. Sometimes rapid growth is actually a recipe for disaster. So I would say the biggest thing people do is I should be here, or this person launched their business 6 months ago and look at what they're already doing. Just stop doing that this year. Focus on what you can improve for your own business and it'll all work out well.
Love that. And by the way, if you see somebody else having success, celebrate their success and then say, okay, how do I do that also? Not
Mhm.
why are they ahead of me? Why are they doing better than me? What am I doing wrong? What are they
Right.
doing right? Right? What
Mhm.
what can what can I mimic or learn from them and just copy and duplicate? There's nothing wrong with being a copycat, right? There's nothing wrong with taking something that's working for somebody else. There's an entire industry. There's a guy, Russell Brunson, who I tuned into for a very long time.
Yeah.
And he has a conference called Funnel Hacking Live. A funnel hacker is somebody who looks at other people's funnels and then copies it, right? Like that. It's an entire business of being able to figure out what's working for somebody else and then duplicate it and try to make it work for yourself. So
Mhm.
you can absolutely do that, folks. We have a 2-day workshop series that's going on. We're doing more than one of them. So if the dates don't work for you, look for the next opportunity, the next dates. But I strongly encourage you, if you're thinking about trying to accelerate the growth of your firm this year, if 2026 is the year for you, um, don't try to figure it out alone. You've probably been doing this for a period of time, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. I mean, just look at how much time you've been doing it for. If you haven't figured it out until now, you're not going to suddenly get it right in 2026 on your own. So come into the room and learn the formula that we use, understand how to execute on it. When you leave, you will leave with a written plan, budget forecast and everything of exactly how you're going to create $100,000 months in 2026. And that's something that I think is going to provide a ton of value for you. Even if you fail at the implementation side of it, you're still going to get a ton out of just going through the process of understanding what it takes to get to $100,000 a month in your business, if that's a journey that you're on. So I gave the wrong URL at the beginning. My team will probably create a new redirect for it, but profitwithlaw.com/LFG 2026 is the right one. Profitwithlaw.com/LFG 2026. I hope to see you there. Kalen, it's been a pleasure having you on the show and chatting with you. And folks, we are here every single week with a brand new episode. So make sure to hit subscribe in your podcast player and YouTube channel so you get notified when we release a new episode. And we hope that you're going to tune in to our next show. Take care. Bye for now.